Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Good morning everyone. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 2nd September 2021. Okay, let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important developments. First of all, let us take overview quickly of all these articles, then we will discuss them one by one. First of all, mains related developments. Yes, GDP estimates for first quarter of this financial year have been recently released, and the analysis in the editorial is done. This is important from GS3 paper, economic part. We need to have a follow up on all how economy is working, especially after the second wave of the pandemic in the country. So these are the estimates by NSO. The data is given by the government, so we have to analyze that, and we have to also look into the prospects of further economic growth. Okay. Then next article, the prognosis for school reopenings. Again on editorial page it is talking about, the context is recently some of the states like Delhi, UP and other states have taken measures to reopen the schools from the 1st September. Okay, so especially those 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th standard students, for them the physical attendance in the schools have been allowed with certain measures taken at the school level. Okay, so this is important from GS2 paper, governance part as well as COVID-19 as aspect of COVID-19 here. We have to understand in the first part of this article there is one mathematical model that has been studied by certain experts, and the outcome findings of that is analyzed in the second part. Okay, so we will try to take input accordingly from the GS2 paper part, governance aspect. Then specifically prelims related on page number 4, north and northeast page, snow leopard and black-necked crane, the new state animal and state bird of Ladakh Union Territory. Okay, so basic information about snow leopard and black-necked crane, yes, their habitat, their conservation status and the threats. Okay, so all these aspects we have to understand from environment section. Then high honor for naval aviation. So this presidential honor, the highest honor for battalions of the armed forces. So in that naval aviation is given this year's presidential honor. So about naval aviation, brief background history is given in this article. We will take input from security and defense aspect here. Then multinational exercise ZAPAD 2021, ZAPAD, ZAPAD 2021 is going to be held in Russia. In which city we have to locate that city also, and India is participating in this particular exercise, so that becomes important here. Okay, so bilateral and multilateral armed forces exercises with other nations. So finally practice prelims MCQs on this current affairs. Yes, first article, fleeting cheer. Now this article, it is talking about the recent release of first quarter data of current financial year regarding GDP and GVA, gross value added estimates. So what we will do is first of all look at these facts. The GDP and GVA growth estimates by National Statistical Office. So it is talking about GDP estimates on quarter basis from the previous quarter, or not previous quarter, we can say that from the previous financial year, the same quarter. Yes, so around 20% growth estimates for GDP. As we know that last year during the same quarter there was national level lockdown, strict lockdown was there, and economy contracted significantly, and you can see the kind of GDP growth from quarter basis because of such contraction. Then in terms of GVA, it is around 18.8% growth estimates. What is the difference between GDP and GVA? GVA is equal to GDP plus government subsidies minus taxes on the products. This is the formula, gross value added. Okay, so we know all about GDP in general. We have learned this in NCERT. It is, we can say that the overall production of goods and services happening in the country. Okay, so this is the gross domestic product. When the subsidies are added and the taxes on those products and services are subtracted, then it is gross value added. Fine. So this is the data. Now if we are talking about, let's say, the sector wise analysis which shown the growth trajectory. So this is quarter on quarter basis growth projections given by National Statistic Office. But if we are looking at the let's say previous quarter, from if we are comparing the data with the previous quarter, then there is decline. Okay, so there is some kind of decline from previous quarter, and this impact is because of second wave. Okay, second wave of the pandemic. So the impact is visible now, especially if we are talking about the 8 major sectors of the economy. In that, electricity, positives, electricity consumption, and other non-contact services like financial services, they have positive growth, but remaining 6 sectors, they had negative growth here. Okay, from the previous quarter we are talking. Now, yes, private consumption spending and government consumption expenditure decreased from the previous quarter. This is also cause of concern. Now, private consumption spending decreased by around 17% from previous quarter. This is also cause of concern, and government consumption decreased by around 7%. By around 7%. This is also cause of concern. Why we are talking like this? Private consumption helps in boosting the demand in the economy. Okay, and we know that the government consumption expenditure also helps in boosting the demand. Government consumption expenditure means in terms of government employees' salaries, some allowances that are given by the government, that is called as consumption expenditure. At the same time, government is also investing in certain, let's say, other aspects which are not capital intensive. Okay, so they are consumption expenditure, right? So that is also decreased. So this is also cause of concern, but we are expecting growth prospects. Growth prospects in terms of, because of, let's say, ease of restrictions in certain states after second pandemic wave, or second wave of the pandemic has to some extent declined here. At the same time, boost of demand from US and other Western economies, that has helped to some extent spur the growth in exports from the country. Okay, demand has increased and therefore the export has increased from India to these countries. So these are the growth prospects. At the same time, private consumption spending may increase in next quarter. Why? Because of festival season is coming. Okay, so during the festival times, there is tendency that the private consumption will increase. Okay, and that may boost the demand, aggregate demand in the economy. Now, the concerns of rising raw material cost, this is also concern, especially the article is providing example of automobile industry. Okay, so when such concerns of raw material cost increasing, either that will be, let's say, consumed by the manufacturer or that will be passed on to the consumer. So basically, for example, automobile sector, they have increased the cost of final products or cars here, and that is passed on to the consumers. So this is less likely to result into more car sales here. Okay, so this is how the economy is working at present. Second thing we should understand, the concern is monsoon rain deficit is going on and agriculture output may decrease and rural consumption consequently may also decrease. So in future we may expect a decrease in the consumption because of poor monsoon rainfall. Okay. So way forward, the writer is providing in this article is expediting vaccine coverage so that further there will not be restriction on economic activity if suppose there is increase in infections, and fiscal measures to boost overall consumption demand. Okay, so fiscal measures, for example, certain allowances in terms of, let's say, government salaries, and some allowances can be given during the festival times. This will increase some kind of consumption by the government employees, we can say, and overall it will help to the increase in demand. At the same time, the government can come up with some kind of incentives, fiscal incentives that will boost some kind of consumption. Okay, so it may provide some subsidies to certain sectors. In that sector there will be more and more, let's say, sales of those products and the final consumption will happen. Okay, so in this manner you should understand how economy is working. This is analysis of previous quarters data. Any question?
Sir, in this GDP growth expenditure of government the money is going to be included now, sir. How much of the amount is going to be expenditure in government department as well as the export from the government sector. Is there any benefit for the normal people, sir? It is not benefit for normal people now, sir. Only the government is going to be spending for infrastructure and some of the vaccine departments only large amounts they spend. But there is no any growth rate of the normal people income, daily wages like that. It has been already decreased in the last 2 years. Then how we can able to develop a normal person?
Yes. See, try to understand, government cannot directly send some money in the pockets of the people. Rather, the government will always focus on asset creation. Okay, and that is in terms of infrastructure building. Now, when the government is spending on large infrastructure projects, ultimately there will be trickle down of that money into the pockets of the people, because the people are working there. It will help in job creation in certain sector. It will have spillover effect on the other sectors of the economy, and automatically there will be, let's say, boost in the economic cycle. Okay, so ultimately when the people will work, do their job, they will receive income. So this is the ultimate objective here. The people, the government will not directly send the money in the, let's say, Jan Dhan accounts directly. That is not going to have the right kind of economic activities. Okay, or it is, let's say, short-term consumption. When the asset creation happens, that will give the long-term boost to the economy. Okay, so this is the approach of the government always, right? So next article, it is related to the prognosis for school reopenings. Yes, the context is recently from the 1st September there is, let's say, start of reopening of the schools happened in certain states. That's why the article is talking about that context. However, in the first part, the experts who have written this article, they have devised one mathematical model regarding, let's say, the scope for minimizing the risk of disease for children and their family members, and on the other hand, maximizing in-person schooling. There is a debate going on how to balance this two, let's say, to some extent, divergent interests. Okay, so what are the divergent interests? First, minimizing the risk of disease for children and their family members due to reopening of this school, and on the other hand, we have to also maximize the in-person schooling. As we all know that to some extent in-person schooling is more beneficial as compared to online schooling. Okay, so this is also important. Now the findings of the mathematical model. This mathematical model included all the aspects related to reopening of the school. Okay, now the findings of the model says that increase in cases in children is expected as schools are opened as compared to when the schools were closed. That is going to happen because the children are going to come in contact with other children, or let's say teachers, other staffs, so or during the travel, all these aspects are going to happen, and there will be some kind of increase in the number of cases due to reopening of the school. This is the finding of the model, and we can understand that this can happen. Then children are at lower risk of severe COVID-19 disease. Now this is already established fact. All over the world, the data shows that the children are less susceptible to the severe COVID-19 disease as compared to the elders. Okay, so to some extent it minimizes the risk among the children. Now, ramping up immunization in older age groups and continuing non-pharmaceutical interventions will help to reduce the infections among the children and elders. How? This non-pharmaceutical interventions means we can say universal masking, social and physical distancing, and hand hygiene practices. All these are non-pharmaceutical interventions. When they are followed in the schools, not only by the children but also by the teachers and staff, then we can say that this is going to reduce the number of infections. Right? At the same time, immunization in older age group, especially when the children are going back at their houses, their parents and grandparents, they should be vaccinated. Okay, so those above 18 years of age at their households, they should be vaccinated at the earliest. Along with that, teachers and the other staffs, they should be also vaccinated. Right? So in this manner, the study finds that we can balance these diverging interest here. Okay, so in interpretation of the findings, we can understand that from this findings of the mathematical model, that in-person schooling is more important as compared to the online education, and the risk involved can be balanced here with appropriate measures taken. At the same time, the article is also understanding that on the basis of seroprevalence in a particular city or district, we can take certain measures. Suppose like in Maharashtra or Kerala, the seroprevalence, that is the antibody presence among the masses, is less as compared to other states like or cities like Delhi. Okay, so these states needs to be more careful. They need to vaccinate more their population. Right. The second aspect, the article is also understanding that there is need of urgent steps when positivity test increases. Okay, suppose there are, let's say, 4 or 5 infections found in certain school. Immediately they need to be isolated. The children needs to be asked to, let's say, stay at home. At the same time, there is need of immediately testing of all other children, staff and teachers in the school. And suppose there is threat of increasing the infections because of that particular number of infections, then that school needs to be immediately shut down for temporary time period. Okay, so like recently the education minister in Delhi has said that it will only take 30 minutes to close a certain school if it is found that it is responsible for spreading of infections. Right? So surely such measures are needed to be taken, and local level conditions needs to be considered in taking such decisions, and not at, let's say, state level or national level, pan-national level decisions implemented at the or on the schools levels. Okay, so you can take input from this finding also, you can give reference to this mathematical model by the experts. Fine. So already we have earlier discussed this school reopening issue in the earlier topics also. This will be a follow up to that aspect. Fine. Any question? Now prelims related developments. Yes, Ladakh recently announced its state bird and state animal. So what is this state animal first? Snow leopard. Okay, it is very important and we can say that vulnerable animal, Himalayan animal, we can say that found in Himalayan states of Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, and even in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. 5 states we can say. Okay, so yes, it is native to mountain ranges of Central and South Asia, like it is found in Nepal, Bhutan and other countries also. It is also locally known as ounce. Scientific name Panthera uncea. Right. Now the habitat is, we can say, high altitude habitat from 300 to 4,500 meter, ranging from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Tibetan Plateau, southern Siberia, Mongolia, western China also. In India, it is found in, we can say, Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim and we can say Arunachal Pradesh. Now what are the threats? Threats to this animal is poaching, habitat destruction, following infrastructure developments. Then IUCN status is vulnerable. Try to understand, in some of the books it may have mentioned endangered, but in 2017 IUCN has downgraded the conservation status from endangered to vulnerable. Snow leopard, now it is a state animal of Ladakh Union Territory. Now the state bird is black-necked crane. It is only found in Ladakh region. Okay, so earlier also it was state bird of Jammu and Kashmir before reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir into Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory and Ladakh Union Territory. This crane considered the loyal couples only found in Ladakh's Changtang region. Do you remember recently we talked about this region? Why? Yesterday or
Kashmir people, they will make a regular for this.
Yes.
Area goats.
Pashmina shawls, right, from the Changtangi goat found in Changtang plateau of Tibet. So this Changtang region, so this black-necked crane is also found in that region. Okay, then IUCN status is near threatened and cites, that is Convention on let's say international trade in endangered species. So it is included in the Appendix 1 with highest protection. Fine. So they look like this. We have added photographs also. This is also, we can say that camouflage. Camouflaging is very famous for snow leopard. You may have come across such photos on social media also. It is not visible to naked eye. Camouflage is very common for snow leopard in Ladakh. Yes. Now, high honor for naval aviation, President's Color Award, the highest award for the, let's say, military unit. President's Color is the highest honor bestowed on a military unit in recognition to the exceptional service to the nation. Now, this year it is given to the national aviation. Now, naval aviation, not national, naval aviation. Now, the brief history of naval aviation we will understand. It came into being with the acquisition of first sea-land aircraft in 1951 and commissioning of INS Garuda, first naval air station, in 1953. Then first aircraft carrier, that was INS Vikrant, commissioned in 1957. INS Vikrant, first aircraft carrier. Okay, so Navy was also first among the armed forces to be awarded President's Color in 1951. Okay, now INS Vikrant with its aircraft played crucial role in liberation of Goa in 1961 and in 1971 Indo-Pak War. Okay, so this is also important aspect you should remember. INS Vikrant aircraft carrier. The second aircraft carrier is INS Virat, right? So, and recent one INS Vikramaditya. So these three are aircraft carriers in sequence. You should remember INS Vikrant, Virat, Vikramaditya, right? So in this manner, and now recently the trials of indigenously built aircraft carrier that were going on recently, it was in news, we have covered this, right? So trials for 1 year are going to be happening for that aircraft carrier, and then it will be inducted. Okay. 200 army personnel for ZAPAD exercise. ZAPAD 2021, it is going to happen in Russia. This is a theater level exercise of Russian armed forces. It will primarily focus on operations against terrorists. Okay, so there are total 9 participating nations, and some observer countries are also participating, like China and Pakistan as observer countries are participating in this exercise. This is going to happen in Nizhny or Nizhny, Russia. This is city Nizhny, Russia. You can see here the location near Moscow. Nizhny Novgorod. This is the location, and this is located along the bank of which river? Volga river. This is Volga river, like this, passing through like this through Russia. It is entering into Caspian Sea. There was question in prelims examination, mapping part, Volga river draining into Caspian Sea. Last year also it was in news due to the Russian multilateral exercises at Astrakhan. Location you can see, location Astrakhan region near Caspian Sea. It was also on the bank of Volga river. Okay, so that was also context to ask question in prelims examination. Okay, so Volga river, one of the most important river in Russia, western region of Russia. Okay, so what should be answer to this question then?
Sir, answer C.
B.
D.
T, all of them.
Yes, sir. Answer C.
C, 3 only. Just now we talked about this ZAPAD exercise. We have to find the correct statements. It is bilateral exercise between India and Russia. Just now we talked about this is not bilateral, it is multilateral exercise. Other countries are also participating, right? So it is multilateral exercise. Incorrect. It is held at Nizhny, Russia. Okay, it is being held, we can say that, because in UPSC the question will be framing like this only, after being held, right? So in prelims examination it is in October, so it will be like held in Nizhny, Russia, so it is correct statement. And then it is the city Nizhny, Russia is located on the bank of Volga river. Yes, just now we talked about this. So answer should be 2 and 3 only, B option. Right? Have you understood this? Multilateral, bilateral exercise or trilateral, quadrilateral. Which is the quadrilateral exercise? Naval exercise. Quadrilateral exercise which is held alternatively in Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. Every year, alternatively in Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean.
USA.
Yes. USA and other 2 countries, Japan and Australia. Recently Australia was added to that Malabar exercises. Right? So, yes, you need to remember all these exercises because for prelims examination this is important. Fine, any question?
Sir,
Yes.
already IITs and some of the scientists have given the clear data about the COVID is going to be peak stage on September and October, sir. But what is the logic behind the all governments are opening the schools in September 1st onward?
See, even if they are saying that the third wave will come, but the intensity of the third wave will be very less. Okay, they have said that it will be like almost 1/4 of the second wave, the intensity of the third wave. Okay, so yes, because of that there will not be much stricter lockdown here onwards, and surely the economy is major let's say focus area now, reviving economy as compared to restrictions and the spread of infections. Surely the government is focusing on, let's say, restrictions or preventive aspects in terms of masking, social distancing, all these aspects are promoted, and vaccination. These two areas where the government needs to focus at present to reduce the number of infections. Okay? Yes. Okay then, let us stop. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.